and to know that whatever I feel called, whatever my heart is called to, I no longer have a parent telling me what to do. I have to choose, and I have to feel into what is right for myself and what is in alignment for my soul. And if that's protect the planet, that makes more sense than anything else. I've lost one mother. Why would I risk losing another?
That's Kate Nelson, the plastic-free mermaid, and you're listening to
The Beginning of Us.
Feel like something is rapidly transfigurating in my core of being, an awakening of sorts.
The Beginning of Us.
A raw conversation hosted by your main frother, Billy Otto.
pulling apart what it means to rebirth, to rewild, to be curious and to rechild. What up, world? I see you. I feel you. I know you through social media. Thank you. Yeah, it's been an epic adventure launching this potty, and I really just want to thank you all for getting behind it. Received an overwhelming amount of responses, love, ratings, reviews, comments, emails, a couple of text messages from my friends, and yeah, I just really feel so much purpose and meaning in this platform. And the feedback on the Kyle Lionheart episode was really raw and beautiful, and I just want to just give a shout out, especially to all the men that came forward and were like, yeah, bro, this is pretty real. Thanks for talking about porn and broken father-son relationships and having toxic relationships with our partners. Stummy from Germany says, hey, congrats on the podcast. Love the vibes and vulnerability you guys show. So brave. Vanya from New York said, wow, just wow, Billy Otto. I loved everything about this episode. Can I say it was audibly orgasmic to stay relevant to it? ? Lol. Cheers, fam from the States. Johnny said, my bro Billy Otto has done something special with this new podcast, and Up First is such a legend inspiration to me personally, Kyle Lionheart. Press play to listen, learn, and love. Dave from Sydney said, it's so good, bro. Giving me all the life this morning. Yeah, so cool. Today, wow, what an episode. Listen to the whole thing. Kate Nelson is the biggest inspiration. So, yeah, guys, get behind my people that I'm interviewing, and I just really thank you for the support again. Heaps of love.
The beginning of us.
I'm so honoured today to be with the water woman, magical mermaid yogi goddess, single-use plastic-free for over 10 years. She just oozes with bravery and care. Kate Nelson, you embody activism like no one I've ever met. Yeah. So you changed my life, and I'm really honoured to be able to share some time with you today. Thank you for coming on my little show.
Aw, thanks, brother Billy. What an intro. Thank you.
Oh, far out. This is good. I actually went for a bit of a swim before, just like, I just want to came from another interview, and I was just like, I just want to reground.
Yeah.
And just decompress. And I was just floating like a child in the great Mother Ocean, and just really bringing a lot of intention into this chat. And I just know there's going to be so much flow, because you are just the woman of flow. So you're always just flowing. Even though you cry many tears for the planet, you're just constantly in flow.
Yeah, I feel definitely deeply connected to the water element, and it's so lovely to really go there, to reconnect to nature, to our water planet, to the water element that flows through our blood, through our bodies, and yeah, the cleansing water, the sweet water that we drink that we need. Like, so grateful for water. Wow. And yeah, just love being in flow state.
I wish you could see this. Kate is actually levitating right now. No, ever since I met you, Kate, your life has been very convicting to me. And I have friends now that tell me, Billy, it's very challenging to sometimes be around you because you have a convicting presence about the decisions you make and the beautiful beliefs that are in your life right now that you stick to. And but you're a whole nother level, Kate, and I think you're like fully inspiring a generation more than you'd ever know.
Thank you. Yeah,
thank you for holding up the flag,
Yeah, I hear you. I think that it can be intense for people to witness someone like yourself or me that chooses to give up plastics, and it can be confronting for people to kind of like face their own consumption perhaps, and it feels it feels intense, this energy where I'm not pushing anything on anyone. I don't want anyone to do anything that they're not comfortable with. It's a choice. I live an extreme lifestyle. I haven't used plastics for 10 years or plus, and that's my choice. I have this really hard boundary around it, and it's kind of extreme, or at least it was 10 years ago for sure. And it's extreme so that other people feel more comfortable to live a little bit less plasticky if they feel so inspired.
Yeah. I would love to know, because we're going to get more into that, I would love to know what your day looked like today, a day in the life, because you also have a very alternative lifestyle, global nomad. But yeah, what did Friday look like for you?
Well, it's funny because this alternative lifestyle, no day is the same. I just finished hosting a mermaid retreat in my local here in Byron Bay. So this morning I slept in. It was so nice. Well, till like 8 o'clock. And usually I'm up really early, but slept in, just regenerating after holding space for transformation of my mates. And then I went to the gym. I've been really sad lately because of all the bushfires and just the koalas, and the wildlife that we're losing. So I went to the gym to get those endorphins. And then I came to the office. I've been here. I work from Sustainable Valley, a co-working space, and I've just been researching.
Beautiful space, by the way.
Isn't it gorgeous?
Yeah.
So many plants, so
Great
many
energy.
legends, yeah. And just tuning in with the community. I've been away hosting this retreat all week, so just wanted to tap back in and research more about the fires and create a little bit of a response publicly, just create a little bit of clarity around all of the confusion that's circulating online about the fires in the state of Australia. We've got millions of dollars pouring into our country, and going where? So, and now false narratives being spread around the world about the causes of the fires. Being caused by arson, and there's just a lot of misinformation. So I feel like it's I felt compelled to create a little bit of clarity around that, and I've just been slaving away in the office today, so it's nice to have a chat with you. After this I'm gonna go for a surf and eat lots of veggies and go to bed.
Okay, Kate, catch us
Day in
all
the
up.
life.
So the plastic-free mermaid, where did this all begin with this great mermaid motif? When did you start to embody that? And it's a beautiful thing. It's a great story from what I've seen, but please tell my audience and the world, why mermaids?
Well, I'm originally a freshwater mermaid. I grew up in Minnesota, which is known as the land of lakes. So we have 100,000 lakes in Minnesota. It's very puddly.
100,000?
Yeah, heaps, and lots of forests. It's where the Great Lakes spill from Canada into the US. So it's really watery. And then from there it flattens out and becomes farmland. I used to spend all my summers between canoe camp counseling in the Boundary Waters, taking kids on canoe trips, and then spending it in San Diego junior lifeguarding with my family over there. So love for water and then love for ocean, and studied in California and worked for a scientist who was studying microorganisms ingesting microplastics, and just feeling really really all the water sports, all the water sports appealed to me: surfing, sailing, scuba diving, free diving, and so being in the water was where I kind of identified as mermaid, and then learning about plastics affecting this playground, this temple.
So was there like a catalyzing moment for that?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was like, I've seen it, I can't unsee it.
That was the scientist. Yeah.
Doctor, what was?
Dr. Andrea O'neill.
Yeah, I read that in your bio.
So she was studying microorganisms ingesting microplastics. And, this is 11 years ago. I was like, come again? What does that mean? And so she was the one that said, plastic does not biodegrade, Kate. It photodegrades, light breaks it up into tiny millions of pieces, little microplastics that are irretrievable in the environment, even beyond microscopic. We can't even see those with the naked eye, and now we're learning more about that, which I can talk more about. But,
Such
at that
a futurist.
time...
Way before her time.
Oh, man, and that switch flicked for me, because I was like, oh my God, we don't know this. We don't know about any of this. My gosh, like I was in college at the time, you know, playing beer pong with red Solo cups and drinking out of plastic water bottles and taking coffees and takeaway cups, so much plastic. And I thought, gosh, this is definitely, I am contributing to this. So that's when I quit plastics. I thought, of all the things affecting the planet, this is one thing I can control. I can quit my personal contribution to this plastic, which is ending up in the oceans. You know, this is my playground. So that's when I started with, you know, I recruited my best friends and I told them all about plastic, and they were so upset, and we started a nonprofit called Save the Mermaids. We all would dress up like mermaids, and it was great storytelling. You know, it was easier for people to relate to this mythical being, you know, these feminine creatures that were coming from the ocean to defend it and tell people about plastic that's, you know, polluting our homes. So people could, it softened it a bit. It was less standing outside.
Preachy.
Yeah, it wasn't aggressive. It wasn't standing outside of grocery stores like begging for signatures or donations. It was like, we come from the ocean. It was, you know, people had a giggle, a laugh. They were like, you mermaids, you know. But then we had the science to back it up.
And so, growing up in the States, you gained your conviction, and what made you grow into this global citizen?
I mean...
Did you come to Australia years ago?
Sorry?
Did you come to Australia like years ago?
Yeah, probably about 8 years ago. Yeah. And I met Tim Silverwood. I remember we were sitting on a picnic bench in Newcastle.
Who is he for all the listeners? Take 3. Tell us a bit about Tim, just quickly.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, this was before he founded Take 3 for the Sea. So this was years ago, and we were just like, what do we do about plastic? What's the solution? And then he, of course, went on to found Take 3 for the Sea with 2 other amazing mermaid legends, which is, you know, every time you're out and about, take 3 pieces of trash. It takes 1 hand to pick up 3 pieces of trash. If you're at the beach, no matter where you are, always be on the lookout to pick up trash and just keep our planet clean. Tim's such a pioneer. So it was awesome. I was here about 8 years ago, and I think, you know, global citizen, the planet is connected by water. We're connected by our oceans. This is a water planet. Yeah, so it's the land that's separated, but like when your heart is in the ocean, you're always connected.
So Kate, tell me, like, what really wakes you up in the morning? What burns within that beautiful mermaid heart the most? And maybe even what breaks your heart, but what really gives you purpose as well?
Yeah, it's interesting. We do a lot of work on the Mermaid Retreat about finding our purpose and finding that reason for being and the reason to wake up in the morning. And for me, you know, right now, feeling the sadness for the loss of the fires and tapping into that and where that comes from, and then being able to go jump in the water after a long day of trying to figure out how to tell the story, how to make this narrative compelling so that people are engaged, whilst also very informative, but not too informative that we lose people's attention. That's what gets me up in the morning. It's being a storyteller for the earth.
Beautiful.
I think that's it. You know, I feel so deeply connected to so many parts of our planet, so many parts of nature, especially the ocean, of course, and to speak for her, to offer the planet, Mother Earth, you know, Mother Ocean, to speak for her, to offer her a voice, and all of the animals and wildlife that don't have a voice, and all of the humans that don't have a voice, that are so affected by the natural disasters and the changing climate. That is such a fire that burns inside of me, and I have so much energy for it.
Yeah, I think it was Damo Cole earlier this year when I started writing that song, Can't Take the Ocean Out of Me. And
love that song.
he actually called me up. I told Shauno the story today, but he called me up because our friend Dusty Boots couldn't write it at the time, and I'm like, I'll do it. I was at Isabel Lucas's house, wrote the song, and I sent it over to my friends in Chicago to mix. Johnny put some sax on it. I was editing the song on the way to see Damo for a paddle out in Torquay, and I was like so nervous on the day. There was a couple of thousand people that were there, 3,000. So I'd never sung the song. I got up there and I was just like, we'd already hugged and kind of cried on each other's shoulders because we couldn't believe what was happening. I played the song. He got on stage with me on the sand stage and was just like, take me.
Yes,
Next minute
to
he
the
gets up.
water.
He gets up and just with like tears in his voice was just like, for millennia, she has given to us for generations, but it's just now that she's asking us for help. She's crying out for help. And we don't personify the ocean enough, I don't think. And I think we've always living within the Anthropocene, this duality of what we are and what we are not. We are not nature, that is nature. But First Nations always believed that they were part of nature and that nature was them and that we're part of this great, beautiful organic ecosystem.
Yeah, I think that's why we don't personify the ocean, is because we don't, that's that anthropogenic mindset to try to make it like a person. I think we, like you said, we instead should remember that we are interconnected, that we are a part of this, that our actions do have consequences, and instead of just, we're not here to just take and be more comfortable and be more, on holiday. We're here to be connected, to be in community, to be in service. And the ocean is a part of that, just as we are a part of that. No bigger, no smaller, just interconnected, just plain and simple, scientifically proven interconnected. This beautiful, gigantic ecosystem that stretches the globe wide, and then the small, very, local ecosystem, all of it, we have impact, and that is so beautiful. And you're right, First Nations people, the Indigenous, we have so much to learn.
Yeah, it's actually one of my intentions this year is to really spend a lot more time with elders. Like, I know nothing about where I'm from in Newcastle. It's a Wapical country. I don't know so little about my culture there. And in Sydney, there's so much rich heritage. There was, close to Coogee, there was birthing baths.
Wow.
For Indigenous mamas, just 300 years ago. It's so incredible just to think, but just our white colonial spin. Like, I'm just starting to read Dark Emu now. Yeah, but so much wisdom that is so untapped. I wish we could be more like the Kiwis and really learn how we can learn from each other. And
well, that's it. Hey, that's our job now, with us, with networks and with people listening. Everyone's so crying out for ways to help and support, and that is why millions of dollars have been donated. Like, yes, it's easy to just click a button and have $5 come from your bank account, but there's so much care and there's so much confusion and there's so much hurt. So many hearts are aching and people are looking for what to believe in and looking for the answers and looking for clarity to all this confusion. And that is, the solutions are to slow down, to take a big pause and a deep breath, and come back to the earth and come back to the Indigenous who know the ways of this earth. We have forgotten, but we can remember if we give pause and really, sit in circle in our community, in our local community, respect and seek out mentors if we are accepted in the Indigenous community, sit with our elders in our communities, support youth, so much fear. Our youth have so much fear. They're so scared and they feel so betrayed by the earth they're inheriting. And the elders feel, abandoned because they have given us this burning earth. And the majority of them knew not what they were creating. And they still feel so helpless and so, despondent and abandoned by us as we point the blame to them. So it's so up to us to create these intergenerational circles of sharing, to sit with each other and hear each other's stories. And this is what we've been doing for ages, centuries, is sitting in circle and sharing our feelings and hearing each other. And how cathartic at a time like this when there's so much fear and pain and suffering to sit together.
Because I think naturally in the West we think to ourselves, there's a problem, let's react let's get on the phone, let's Google it. And we're just constantly reacting out of a place of anxiety. Like, fuck, nihilism, despondency, existential, my future, your future, who's to blame, who to scapegoat, who to demonize, how do we polarize? But what would it mean to actually reground and just put your feet in the water and just breathe? Because naturally our tribal mindset wants to go, fuck that ScoMo guy. Scotty from marketing, calling all these different names, and it's funny, great, and there's so much truth in that. But I think it still transcends one human. Clearly there's puppetry. Clearly there's a bigger game going on. But it's a spiritual problem. More than anything.
Nailed it. And that's where my work's really heading. Like, I teach how to live plastic free, and I'm like, you can find all my DIY recipes on my website and my YouTube, whatever. But
let it rain.
You know, I can make plastic free crackers and cleaning products and facial cleansers, whatever. That, you know, all the things that were packaged in plastic, I had to learn how to make that. So like, I'm a resource. But more so, what I'm feeling, you know, people need guidance to come back to themselves. People need to be reminded to step away from the phone, which is just, you know, or the laptop, which is just, like you said, spouting all this fear tactics. Like that is what clicks. That's what gets the clickbait, is the bad news story.
The algorithm gets me. Every day.
They're literally, and there are paid robots, there are paid trolls to, you know, it's just marketing, and they're paid, the government, you know, many vested interests are paying these technology companies to spread the narratives that are going to maintain their fossil fuel goals. Of course, this is one of the, you know, biggest exporters of coal on the planet, like leading coal producers. So they don't want to have environmental opinion overturn their economic gains. There's the internet. We can't necessarily trust all of these news sources and media sources, so we have to be even more grounded and more
discerning.
More discerning and more in alignment with our true self, and that requires a lot of self-work. That requires you know, moving the body and breathing and sitting quietly in meditation to come into yourself, feel into yourself, and feel into what's true and right and good for yourself. You know, creating those boundaries for your energy and holding them, so important, so that you're not sucked into Facebook scrolling or researching, you know, conspiracy theories, or fighting, you know, these social media wars that people get locked into. I do too, because you see someone comment something that you're like, that is just so untrue, or gosh, that's reacting from such fear and anxiety, and it's just so sad. I'm like, please go jump in any body of water, go take a cold shower, you know, anything, change your state, so that you can see more clearly or feel more deeply.
We've all definitely been keyboard warriors this year to some degree, especially in the last 10 days. But how, for someone who is pursuing the path of consciousness, Kate, they kind of knew and they kind of freaked out by, I don't want to become a hippie. I felt like a year ago I was like, am I becoming a hippie? What's going on with me? But like, if this whole conversation of spirituality is new, but obviously within all of us is something that transcends consumerism and just matter. We are spiritual beings. And so you're talking about turning up the level of consciousness, turning up that volume, but how can we start tapping into that?
Well, first,
do we have to go to Northern India?
No. Well, first, I think that hippie is a beautiful word, but I think that's not the right word here. I think it's more of a realist.
100%.
You're just a realist. You just believe the science. You see that you're part of this earth. You see that you breathe air. You see that you rely on food that's grown from soil that you hope is healthy, so that your food has high nutritional value, you know, soil that you hope is local, so that your food isn't traveling all over the world, that it's fresh, so it really fuels your body. You know that you drink water. You want your water to be clean. Like, that's just basic, you know, that's not hippie.
I know, isn't it so sad? I was thinking about that, how I don't even know who coined the word hippie. Potentially some like big oil dude. It's just like these guys. But it sucks. Like, what was the last term that was told in like November? Like these woke inner city lefties, like all these, like what is the go with all these new words get thrown around, and then we're looking for labels.
It's all marketing. Yeah,
it's all marketing. Like, where do these terms come from?
Yeah,
like,
even whilst we're on the topic of labels, this is one of my little pet
I love it
projects. Even the label of being vegan is so like, I eat plant-based, and I have for like 8 years, only plants. On occasion, one time I speared a fish.
Saw that post. And it actually challenged me a little bit. I was a little bit like, oh.
It's hard, right? Because I took a life to feed myself and my friends. And hear me out, please, because the reason I did that was because I ask people to go vegan. I ask people to eat plants for the planet and for animals and for their health. And if I'm gonna ask meat eaters who, probably don't prescribe to a lot of the things that I do, and I'm not speaking to within my echo chamber anymore. I'm not speaking within my community of activists. I'm trying to reach out beyond all of us who shop at the bulk food store and bring our own cup and eat vegan. Like, we're converted, right? Like, we are environmentalists and we are doing the thing and we're talking amongst each other. But how do we reach that huge population of people that eat meat every day, 3 times a day? Like, those are the people that I want to focus on. Those are the people that I want to convert over, because once they learn about all the things that we know, us converted, about the impact of eating vegan and how good that is for the country, for the world, for the planet, for the ecosystem, then they should make the decision themselves to eat less meat. But for them to listen to me and not be labeled as a hippie or a crazy vegan, I wanted to show them to relate. I wanted to give them something relatable. And I don't eat fish. I didn't, that's not on the diet usually, but I did that to say, hey, if you're gonna eat meat, can you kill it yourself? Have you asked yourself that? Are you just getting it randomly from the supermarket, cheap meat that you don't know where it's coming from? Is that really good for you? Is that really good for the planet? Is that have you looked into factory farming? Have you seen the obscene conditions for the cows that you're eating? Is that the meat that you want to put in your body? Can you support regenerative farmers? That's what's really going to help.
Did you watch Dominion?
No, what's Dominion?
Oh, incredible documentary about factory farming. Goes through cows, chickens, pigs, and fish.
Yeah.
It's the commentary is Joaquin Phoenix. It's incredible, and it's all pretty much based in Australia. Chrissy and I were watching it. We had to stop. It was so heavy. It was so confronting, even as plant-based eaters. Yeah. I was just like so challenged. And again, like once I saw that, I couldn't unsee.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's so many reasons to eat plants.
And it's just like, but these head in the sand comments and just these gestures, these postures that we put ourselves into of, my palate trumps over this. I need this. These myths.
I know. And it's myths. But the reason I bring this up, because it is so controversial, and I totally feel for so many people that were so triggered by doing that, and they felt betrayed by me doing that. But I want to connect to those mainstream people, and this is the reaction, the strong reaction. Instead of what I want the vegan movement to be is more inclusive. How I feel like with my activism, what I've learned is the more inclusive I can be with my plastic-free living, the more people are inspired and choose to adopt it, or at least do better or use less plastic. I feel that the label vegan can be really polarizing. It's all or nothing. Whereas I think what we really want is we want more people to be eating less meat every day. So how can we make vegan diet more inclusive and welcoming to those people so that more people come over, less meat, more plants, less meat, more plants. And so there's not this just black and white, vegan or not. It's how can more people come? And so that's where
It's beautiful, Kate.
Yeah, less labels, less rigid attachment to one lifestyle that has this one sentence answer. Because so much vegan food is corrupt as well. Like the soy industry, we're cutting down Amazon to grow acres and acres of soy, which is majority used for cattle, in feedlots, and perpetuating the meat industry. And it's packaged in plastic, which is going to kill so many animals. So we have to be critical thinkers. We have to be less attached to rigid lifestyles and less argumentative and more inviting and inclusive and more welcoming with our language, with our activism, especially right now.
Having grown up conservative Christian and even being a pastor in the Seventh-day Adventist movement, I kind of saw growing up really quickly that labeling was so important. It was important for tribalizing. And so this person is part of my denomination, that person isn't. This person's in, that person's out. I am in New Jerusalem, that person is in Babylon. There's just this segregating and this complete duality.
Yeah. Separation.
Separation.
Us and them.
Us and them. But then I became Pentecostal for a while, and then it was me, and the Adventists were wrong, and then I went post-church, and then I was right, and they're not in line, and then it's just continually these every 3 years I'm like, who's my enemy now? But then you step into the consciousness world, and there's still tribes.
Yeah.
There's the Paleo tribe. I love Joe Rogan's podcast, but often there is again this tribalizing of who's in and who's out when it comes to diets, when it comes to hunting, who doesn't hunt, animal liberation, who's not that. But I think for me, the less that I've carried myself in a spirit of martyrdom, and the more that I've just been like, fuck, I love my life. I do care about you and your consumption and your waste, but I love my life and I care about you. I'm not going around carrying my cross saying fuck, my life is so hard because I don't use single-use plastics anymore, and if only you could experience my suffering as well. It's not that, because I feel like I've been set free. Yeah. And I don't like to call myself vegan anymore because of how it separates me from people, and people feel judged automatically.
Exactly.
They don't even know your name. They know you then, and then challenge.
You're vegan. You're in that tribe. Got it.
Yeah. Classic, goes to Byron every month. Drives a Prius, but it's just, I think it's increment by increment, and I think more what I desire now is just softness, is openness, and it's community. That teachable heart Jesus talked about. You can only see the kingdom if you become a child. And it's like you and Sarah Rickards, fuck giver, the queen of all, taught me, I think you really embodied childlikeness, not childishness. And I think that is a starting point.
The beginner mindset, always coming to it fresh and open. You're right. Softness, inclusivity.
And I think that's one of the hardest things when it comes to leaders of governments, is that you don't sense that softness. It's very hard. It's patriarchy. It's hard.
It's masculine. It's the old way.
Mechanistic, centralized power structures that are just these monster units that are impenetrable.
Well, it's like what I was telling you before we started this conversation, that I was chatting with epic local elder and global pioneer, really, Helena Norberg-Hodge, and she was just talking about how these systems, these politicians are in place because they were founded on racist, sexist, corrupt systems hundreds of years ago, and our culture has peeled away from that. Our culture, empowers women and empowers diversity and really seeks truth and science and equality. But our economy hasn't peeled away from that yet, and it's still so, and our politics either. They're very much old system, old patriarchal system, and it's going to take a while for that to soften or change. And so that's where people cling to tribes and cling to any kind of identity that gives them something other than the fear and the mistrust that we all should have in our governments. And I think that's where the spirituality can come in. I think that's where the self-love and self-care routines are really important, and where finding community, where people, you can learn from each other and support each other and be there for each other in community that maybe is less label-y than tribes, but if that's where you find support, that's great. As long as we stay open, as long as we stay soft and we avoid this separated, this polarizing divide of labels. And if we are in a so-called, air quotes, tribe, how can we be more inclusive and make sure that we're not creating more of this us or them? Because that's how the government and the patriarchy maintain their control, is by putting us against each other, is by fueling and now they have technology to be able to market these opposing stories and viewpoints to persuadable or people that are kind of on the fence or directly targeting us in our tribes with our labels, using that data, that technological data on us to craft messages that are going to appeal to our existing viewpoints and create little wars between us. It's so easy to think of it that way, to view it and see us as, we're so avatars online, connected to our phones, constantly ingesting all of this media, and whatever, we're ingesting, it can be good, it can be bad, but it's oftentimes just marketing. So yes, how do we feel in and connect to what's real? The planet, the earth, the ocean, humans, friendships, community, real people. How do we connect more to that? And that's another thing why plastic is so the issue for me. It's synthetic, it is fake. It's in its core, it's synthetic, it's man-made. We've created that. And it's just another barrier between us and what's real. It's a barrier between us and our food, or us and the oils that are really gonna, luxuriate our skin.
Yeah.
It's a barrier. So more realness.
Well, what's it gonna take with these giant systems?
It's a hard one. I think it's gonna take. It's gonna take a lot. I think, this year is, we've got this new decade, which is such a beautiful portal for transformation and change and the magic that we need. And we have so much awakening, and I use that word because yes, it's on brand for me as a mystical mermaid, but also there's so many people waking up to the truth, to the science, to the state of the world as it really is and Australia is such a catalyst for that. The disaster here that we're experiencing still now, 4 months into fires just raging every day, we wake up to more loss, and it's it's devastating that it's taken something so disastrous for people to realize that it's the hot, dry conditions of this country that are making these fires uncontainable. And why is it so hot and dry here? The hottest, driest year on record last year, 2019. And, we've had 38 straight months of record-breaking temperatures. And we've had, the hottest days ever on record in just last month in December. So what is causing that? It's the warming climate. And so there's the science there for people to attach to and realize. So more awakening, more, it's beautiful, it's happening. The systems will change as the humans change, as the humans wake up and realize that we actually, we have to make change in our personal lives, and it might be a little bit uncomfortable at first. I canceled all my mermaid retreats last year. I didn't want to tell people to fly around the world, even though they're so beautiful and important. But we have to change things, and it was really hard for me to change that and to cancel those. It's hard for me personally to cut back on my flying. For some people, it might be hard for them to eat just plants. We have to make some sacrifices now in our personal lives. Otherwise, we're going to be very uncomfortable later or soon. Yeah. It's the changing world, and it's changing regardless.
Towns have just run out of water.
Yeah.
Towns are closing down.
Yeah. Food is going to dry up if the soil can't hold the plants. I've heard that in 20 years,
this country could become Mad Max.
Yeah.
If something drastic doesn't change.
Parts of it already are. People going out into boats to escape the fires, having to go out into the ocean and go underwater to escape the firestorms. Yeah. So the systems will change as long as the people can accept the truth and change individually and collectively. So when we change individually and we lead by example, by inspiring authentic, genuine example, and like we were saying, not preaching, not pushing others people to change, not being aggressive, because that's not inviting change. It doesn't inspire others to change if we are telling them, stop using plastic, don't you realize that's killing the turtles? Like you're contributing to this mess of the planet and all the pollution. Instead saying this, oh yeah, I brought my own cup because it's easy, and it's actually healthier to drink out of glass or metal, so inspiring change by educating but not pushing. And so how do the systems change globally? Well, it's going to take individual, and that's so beautiful. Like what a relief that the way we're going to change the world is by starting with ourselves and just living the best life we can and living our truth, living authentically, and working with our community, and supporting the solutions, supporting the, regenerative agriculture, like shopping at the farmers, supporting the farmers that are doing it regeneratively, looking at carbon drawdown methods and supporting those businesses, supporting renewable energy, trying to do our best to support this green economy. Because it's beautiful, like there's so much money in that too. It's not like we're gonna suffer. There's the creating a better world that our hearts and minds know is possible is it's gonna work. Yeah. It's coming. We're doing it. All of our carbon sequestration methods currently, there's tons, right? So forest, plants, trees draw carbon down. It's part of their life cycle. They feed on the carbon and then they pass that on through photosynthesis, just like with sunlight, and they pass those nutrients on to, they go down into the roots and they pass those on to the microbiology in the soil, which is what creates healthy soil. And they need diversity amongst the plants to feed more, so that the microbiology are healthy and they're getting more diversity in terms of the food that they're being fed from the different plants. And that's why monocrops, like acres and acres of soy or corn or whatever, sugarcane, depletes the soil so much because there's just the one crop. There's just the monoculture of that one plant forever and ever and ever. And so the soil has less diversity to feed from. And, excuse me, that's why forests are such a better carbon sequestration tool, I guess, but it's just a forest, because there's all these different plants drawing carbon down, and then they store it in the soil. So that's how it really acts as the carbon sequestration, is they store that carbon by feeding it to that microbiology, and that stores it in the soil. But the monocrop, when the corn and soy for acres, can't store it in the soil because it's just that one plant forever and ever, and that's what depletes the soil and causes that soil erosion, on top of the fact that they then use synthetic fertilizers, and pesticides to kill all the microbiology and kill all the other plants that's there. So that kills the soil even more. And that's what, you're right, then we can't grow food there, we can't grow anything there. So planting...
food, we're eating all these lettuce leaves but no nutrients.
Right, yeah, and we just have no idea.
Density's just not there.
Because it's cheaper, so we buy it.
Oh, man.
Which makes no sense. Like, always buy organic, local produce, always, always, always. But yeah, that makes sense, carbon banks. So places where we can... start to store the carbon, like seaweed farms, we're storing carbon, forests, soil.
And food forests, I think, need to become way more a thing.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Because there's probably going to be wars over food.
Yeah.
Already is.
Well, with
wars
so
over
much
water.
Because we went so hard into monoculture, when we went so hard into just growing the one crop for states and states, like there's just corn forever, and that's, like you said, depleting the soil. We can't grow stuff there anymore. Like wanting to go back to growing our own food, supporting the local, and there's such a movement for that, of course, because it needs to happen. So that's where I'm trying to spread this narrative of hope, because it is happening. Like these things are happening. So all is not lost. These things are happening. There's regenerative farming. Farming is becoming trendy, which is so cute. Like I love
regenerative babes.
Yes.
It's so exciting.
So and yes, idealistic, we can do this, regenerative farming, like save the world, support the local farmer, but also so much technology is evolving to solve this as well.
About drones that can plant trees.
Yeah, I just think that, again, like I said, I am open. I am trying to stay so open to how to solve these issues, and we're not going to do it alone. I'm not going to do it alone. You know, what are the solutions? Bring them on. Let's invest in all of them. Let's see them all out. What we should avoid is thinking that one thing is going to solve this problem, one thing for the entire planet. Local solutions are going to be very different the world wide. You know, that's where we messed up with plastics. We were like, oh, cool, this material that's like really durable and weather resistant and lasts a long time. Let's package our food in it. Let's use it for, I mean, it was really adopted in World War II when all, like in the States, for example, all the men went away to war and the women had to enter the workforce. And they were at home also trying to raise the family and feed the kids. And so they were like, well, we've got this plastic, which is really useful for our soldiers. We're using it for, you know, helmets and gear because it's light and durable. Well, let's use that at home in the States as well for the families. Let's give them food that's, you can just put it in the microwave and it's easy and their dinner's done. And let's give them plates and silverware that they can just throw away so they don't have to do the dishes. So it was just efficient. They were trying to solve that need. And let's be honest, it was big oil, you know, being like, oh, here's another way that we can make money. And so they implemented these TV dinners and plastic cutlery, and that just took off. And then without thinking of the consequences of this, you know, quick, easy, throwaway material, now it pollutes our world like nothing else. So as we try to think of solutions for our planet, we must really think of the circular economy and the full life cycle of these products and materials and solutions that we're, you know, analyzing or looking at or being excited about. Like, I'm so excited about all the innovation that's coming out. That's really what I'm focusing on this next year or two, is just supporting and amplifying the solutions. And yeah, if drones can plant trees and deliver food or you know, plant seeds by dropping seed pods, that's awesome. I haven't looked into it too much, so I don't know if that's gonna like take out birds, you know, or but it's just exciting that stuff is being created. And
so exciting.
Yeah.
I never want to become nihilistic again. I don't want to, you know, just be like a Ned Flanders and just think that everything's going to be okay and just like idlio, you know, neighborino and but I want to be a realist, but I think there is hope, and I think technology and I think personal spirituality, I think there's a combination of things that need to work symbiotically.
And like, have fun. Like, how good is all of that? Like, I want to be I am like an epic spiritual being. I have such a deep spiritual practice. I'm so tuned into my intuition and to source energy. Like, I am just a channel for this environmental work. I truly feel that. I feel such like a channel for the Earth's mission. But also, I'm such a frother for technology and innovation. They're not opposed. You know, they're not opposing interests. They are fully in alignment if we use technology for good. It's when we use it for bad that it's like corrupt and evil. But there's so many ways, and it's just creating those checks and balances and those honest discussions around these solutions to keep them, you know, working for the planet. And that's why I think B corporations are such a good structure. I mean, Patagonia is such an incredible company that's doing it so right, you know, changing their mission to go into business for good, or for the planet. You know, so there's a lot of examples of things that can be championed and celebrated. And yeah, I'm you know, I have honest, authentic sadness, you know, yesterday for sure, today for sure, but I also am excited. So you guys
can know, Kate was going to come to see our little busking festival down at the Byron Bay main beach, and she shared it on her socials, but we didn't see her there. She had a hard day.
Well, yeah, and I had
lamenting for our koalas.
Well, and that's why I wanted to come. That's why I really needed to come down to the beach and sing and dance with the brothers. But I was invited to chat with Helena, and it just felt like, you know, that's really, it really felt good for my heart to sit with this beautiful elder and hear, you know, she was talking about big picture activism and the economics of happiness. That's her documentary. And yeah, how we can really change the systems and what it's going to take. And it just felt, you know, it was different, heart healing than dancing with the brothers at the beach. That would have been so good. But I was there in spirit, and I'm so glad that other people were able to dance with you guys. And,
yeah, it was actually phenomenal. It was
yay,
like church.
It
It was like heavenly.
What a lineup, my gosh.
Yeah, and just the amount of times that we just all jumped up on stage and sang each other's songs, just grabbed tambourines and like saxophones and just like, it's just such a beautiful energy of togetherness.
Yeah. So important.
Yeah,
to
so
do
much
that.
unity.
Please keep doing that.
Yeah. No. Just on, who were we just talking about? Helena. I remember Helena spoke at New Kind and she said that she was talking about redundant economy. And it was just, I just love her vernacular. I think she's got such a way with words and she speaks from such a place of research and journey. But she's talking about, like, simply, for example, the UK was exporting like 20, I think it was something like 20,000 tonnes of bottled water to Australia. And Australia was exporting 20,000 tonnes of bottled water to the UK. And it's just redundant economy. Like, why do we work like that? Obviously, it's the toxic side of capitalism. We're looking for gains, but all the emissions it takes to ship all of this water. When it's here, we're just playing tennis with our resources. Again, a spiritual problem.
Well, and who's profiting from all that, you know? That's what we have to start looking at is why do we do the things we do? Who would profit from that, you know? Who's making the bottled water? Who's packaging the water? Oil. That's what plastic is.
Crude oil.
Who's transporting it? What's the transportation running on? Oil. You know, so when we start to look at how the economy, like Helena, oh my gosh, what a woman. And so to hear her put it out so clearly is really what gave me that heart healing last night, was to just feel like some clarity in all this madness. It's just like, oh, that makes so much sense. That's what we're all grasping for. We're all just like in fear and anxiety because we don't understand it, because we're not meant to, because it is crazy what's happening. It's such, you know, like global fuckery that we can't even understand it. We don't even know where to begin. As a communicator, as a storyteller, I'm like, where do I even start with this stuff? You know, like what disaster do you start with, or where, you know, it's crazy.
It's such a myriad.
Yeah, but that's why Helena's point is like big picture activism. You know, like what's the big picture? Like, okay, all these countries, and we're trading and we're exporting and we're importing all these things. Like, you're right. Like exporting all this food importing all this food as well, when we have so much growing right here, and we don't buy it because it's cheaper to buy the imported stuff. But is it? It's not. We are paying the price. Look at us. We're paying the price right now. All that fuel burned to transport our food all over the world has caused the country to dry up and heat up, and now we're burning. So it's just making those connections that's important right now, is just helping us all to see that bigger picture. And, you know, that's why I'm excited to work with Helena and support her work, because that's all plastic, and plastic is a gateway for me. Like I want to talk about all the things, but it's helpful to narrow our focus as we try to take these issues on. So that's why
Otherwise, there's overwhelm.
Yeah, otherwise there's overwhelm.
I think it's good I felt really convicted in my core to be like, I'm so passionate about music, and I feel so gifted.
You are so gifted.
Well, you know, just organically, I've done like my 10,000 hours. Like, I've done my time.
Yep.
I understand it and I can produce it. Like, I think sonically, that's just how I do life. It's how I be. And obviously my highest regard now is planetary health and wellness and flourishing, and what greater platform. And I could let all that go and, you know, and chain myself to a tree. But I really want to communicate through my music consciousness and focus on that thing. And I could have done it through film as well, and through figurative painting and through ceramics, but I'm like, no, like, I can choose one thing, sit on it, focus. And ocean protection through music.
Yes.
It's easier.
That's your reason.
To take on one thing, you know. I want two more questions, Kate. I'm frothing, by the way. I know you've got a lot of things to do. I've got to go to dinner too. What freaks you out the most about plastics as a bit of a pro in the plastics world? And I want to hear from you why it really does matter for our society and for us as individuals.
Great question. I'll start from the beginning. Initially, I was drawn to this issue because of the environmental impacts and how it was polluting our oceans and making its way into the food chain. That at that time, I was eating fish and to learn that fish were ingesting plastic and that we would then ingest that plastic. That's really why I gave up eating fish years and years ago, almost a decade. So that was, that the initial negative impact on our environment, on our wildlife, to know that filter feeders, whales and manta rays and these creatures that open their mouth and just cruise through the water trying to eat phytoplankton, trying to eat their fill of krill, instead we're taking on all these plastics. And that just really didn't sit well with me, of course. Now we're seeing so many animals washing up on the beaches from ingesting so much plastic. And then it really, that was my first kind of plastic awakening, and to go out to the Great Pacific Trash Gyre and see all of this trash congregated in these whirlpool-like systems, these gyres where all the currents converge, and seeing that it was creating this dead zone, and it wasn't just sitting there as this like island of trash, but it was then breaking up into tiny little millions of pieces, creating this plastic soup.
Where was this?
This is a Great Pacific Trash Gyre between California and Hawaii.
Yeah.
I visited that years ago, 10 years ago or whatever, when I first had this like, oh my gosh, I have to quit plastics. So initially it was the environmental impact, which many people are waking up to, just because we can see it on the beaches. And now, a few years ago, I was sent a book called Estrogeneration, written by Dr. Anthony J. And he sent that to my address, and he said, the book is all about how plastic acts like estrogen in our bodies. So as we, say, eat fish that is full of plastic, and then that plastic, what does it do in our bodies? If we drink water that has been held in a plastic bottle, if we eat food that's been packaged in plastic, how does that impact our bodies? So what really scares me...
On a molecular level.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so I'll get to the effects, like the health effects are really scary. But first I want to explain how it's going to make its way into our body. So plastic, we can ingest it, we can inhale it, we can absorb it. And we can take it, there's the particles of plastic, the actual flakes, the microplastics, the nanoplastics that flake off of plastics. And then there's the chemicals that leach from plastics. So and both of them are estrogenic. So it's all estrogenic. It's all acting like estrogen in our bodies. How does it make it into our bodies? So we inhale it, we're breathing in the particles, the little plastic particles as dust in our air. Anytime you crinkle a plastic container or water bottle or a bag, or you're at a store and you're whipping through fast fashion or synthetic clothes on the racks, or you're in a grocery store where there's tons of plastic packaging, you crinkle it and it's releasing little flakes, it's releasing little microfibers, the clothing, it's releasing microfibers, or crinkling the packaging, it's releasing microplastics, these tiny little microscopic bits of the material flaking off. That's how it gets into the air. It settles as dust. So that's how we're breathing it in. So anytime you go into a shopping mall, there's way more plastic in the air. At stoplights where all the tires are like burning and paused, like there's all these tire particles that we're breathing in. So there's ways we inhale it. There's ways we absorb it. So most pretty much all anti-wrinkle cream products and beauty products that are saying like glowing skin, all of that contains plastic. It fills in the wrinkles, and it has this reflective quality that reflects the light to make you look younger or brighter or glowing. So a lot of cosmetics have plastics in it, so we absorb them through our skin. And then there's the ingestion, which we're hearing more about now as we learn that there's so much plastic in our water. And so we ingest these particles into our bloodstream, and they act like estrogen as they travel around our bodies. And again, like I said, I'll get to the health impacts in a moment. When does plastic leach chemicals? So not only does plastic flake, these little particles, these little flakes that we breathe in and we consume, but it also leaches. So when you contain food in plastic or drink in plastic, the actual container is leaching its chemicals, all these additives. So plastic itself, there's the main ingredient, plastic, and then there's all these chemicals that are added to it to give it various characteristics like color or texture or rigidity or flexibility, make it this like amazing material that we so love to use for all these applications. So we add all these this is like so deep, so stay with me because this is so important. We add these chemicals to the plastic to give it these characteristics. All of those chemicals, they leach. They don't just stay in that plastic container. So there are 3 circumstances when these chemicals leach and when the plastic chemicals leach. Heat, duration, and fat. So if something is hot that you put into a plastic container, chemicals are leaching into that.
So what about like getting fucking Thai food on a Friday night, just sitting there, and I eat that every week.
You are dosing.
After I saw that YouTube video that you put out about the leaching aspect, it's
making you sick right now.
It's making me sick right now.
Yeah, it's hectic. I mean, that's why like I stay with my focus on plastic, like even though climate, yes, but like we're still poisoning ourselves every day with all the plastic we use. So heat, if you put any hot beverage into a plastic container, if you put hot food into plastic, if you microwave plastic, if you have a plastic water bottle or you drink out of plastic water bottles and it's a hot day or it's traveled through a hot climate, chemicals are leaching into your water. Like you're dosing yourself with these estrogenic chemicals. Second thing, is fat. So if you put a fatty substance into plastic, if it's greasy, oily Thai food, if it's a latte with milk, if it's body cream that has like creamy, fatty, oils in it, if there's fat, these chemicals are lipophilic, so they're attracted to fat. So they're gonna, go from the plastic packaging into whatever it's containing. What else? Duration. So if something's sitting in plastic packaging on the shelf for a long time, it's gonna leach.
So even if it's in like a normal room temperature shelf, doesn't
over time.
Even need heat over time. Yeah.
Over time, yeah. If it's sitting in there long enough, they'll transfer. So yeah, it's it just gives us reason to just try and phase out plastics altogether.
Yeah.
It's just not healthy. It's not safe. There's so many methods for which we use plastic. It's infiltrated so much of our lives, and really food is one way that we can really protect ourselves, is just by eating, again, another plug for plant-based, right? Like eating fresh, whole foods instead of anything packaged in plastic and anything processed. That's not food anyways. It's made to be edible, but it's not like food that's going to fuel your body. So what does it do to our health? How does it affect us? We, estrogen is a hormone that's triggered when we're trying to tell our body certain things. And, pregnant women get tons of estrogen. That's, and they gain weight to support their body, to support the growing fetus. And their emotions are all over the place. They're so happy. And when we flood our bodies with estrogen mimicking chemicals like plastic, we are sending our body, we've got estrogen triggers all over our body, far less than like hunger hormones, for example. And so this plastic travels through our bloodstream, and it's just triggering estrogen, triggering all those receptors for this hormone, telling our body to put on weight. Waging this sort of emotional war, just like extreme mood swings, which causes depression, causes psychological disorders, and onto other mental health issues. We can see this most in children and fetuses. Of course, pregnant women are most susceptible to all toxins, but we see this play out in mostly in depression and mental health problems. It causes cell growth, just like in pregnancy. It causes cell growth in our bodies when we're not pregnant, when we're not even female. So this affects men and women and all genders. Causes cell growth, which can eventually lead to cancers. It can cause heart disease. It affects the reproductive system. So it's really contributing to infertility. It's flooding ourselves with this sex hormone, that's disrupting our endocrine system. It's really scary. It's really hard. It's really hard to talk about. It's because it's such sensitive issues. And there's another book which I recommend people read if they're interested in this topic.
What was the first book?
Estrogeneration. Yeah. It's about the top 10 ill reproductive system altering chemicals that we're exposed to on a daily basis, and plastic are just 2 of those lists, by the way. Yeah, so that's why it's so important for us to focus on reducing our plastic use in general, because we're being so dosed by this stuff across the board. You know, red food dye. What are some other ones? Oh, birth control itself is like an intentional one that we're taking. Yeah, there's a lot. Like the oxybenzyl. I can't remember the chemical name, but the main ingredient in most commercial sunscreens, which is now banned in many places like Hawaii.
So amazing.
Yeah, to protect the reefs. So
yeah.
Grassroots activism works.
Come on.
Yeah. So big answer. What scares me about plastic? Short answer, that it affects our fertility. That we think it's convenient and making our lives easier, but it's really making us sick and fat and depressed and infertile.
Huge.
Like the hugest.
Yeah. Choking ecosystems.
Yep.
But killing us.
And supporting, when we support things packaged in plastic, we're probably supporting that big system we were just talking about. You know,
big linear.
Yeah, the global
masculine system.
Import-export system that's sending our food around the world, and that's why it needs to be packaged to be kept fresh. And we buy into that because we're like, you know, germaphobes, and we value hygiene. But really, true hygiene is eating plants grown in dirt. Like, we need that for our microbiome.
Yeah.
We need that biodiversity of microbiology. We need to ingest.
That's germaphobes, but like the germ count on our own mobile phones. It's kind of like
totally.
It has to be packaged in 3 layers of plastic. Like, it's just.
Yeah.
It's funny, like, even when brands want to send me stuff, like even eco companies, I have to be so crystal clear. I'm like, honestly, I don't even really care if this cool organic linen shirt gets damaged. Just don't put any plastic around it to send it to me.
Yeah.
It's already coming from Adelaide to get it. It's a long way. Like, you know.
Good for you.
But as in, like, you have to be.
You have to be.
Like, you get all these weird bioplastics that your worms fucking hate.
Right. Well, and we like I said, I'm like, support all the solutions and like all the innovation, yes, but like, you know, still be discerning and still recognize when there's something better that works. You know, like, we don't need to use bioplastic packaging. We can use recycled paper. We can use recycled cardboard. And if your thing gets damaged on the way, like, wash it and it's fine. I so appreciate you sharing that, because you're right. Like, that's something that we can all do today, is just anytime you order anything online, is just specify that you want plastic-free packaging, you know? And if they don't know what that is, be like, cardboard, recycled cardboard, paper tape, you know? We are, like I said, the systems are going to change through individual change that leads to collective change. So exert communicate your desires, because that's how we alter the supply, is we communicate demand for less shit. We communicate demand for less plastic, and every time we consume, talk to the people, talk to the employees, talk to the manager, you know, email the CEO, whatever, start to communicate all this desire for plastic-free products and packaging, and it makes its way. That's why there is bioplastic packaging, because enough people communicated that to create a demand for it.
Yeah.
So let's be more specific about what we're asking for.
And it's not the answer, but it's a start.
Yeah.
It's a conversation.
Yeah.
I was on an ad with David Jones for their Christmas ad this year,
and
it was really fun. It was beautiful. Massive budget on this massive set with like 7 other artists from Australia, but some of the creative marketing team were there, and they're like really groovy. They're like, Billy, we've been following you now for 2 months. We love the tunes, love what you're doing. And I was just like, do you guys listen a lot to millennials, what they're consuming, what they're not consuming now? Like, honestly, Billy, it's been our target this year to really learn. And I was just like, yeah, like, where are you guys at then? Like, with conscious consuming and sustainability, that conversation, packaging, and they just told me that they're so challenged about the current quote unquote climate of consuming, how it is changing, and everyone's kind of blowing their whistle in different ways, and especially young people are asking the questions to the big companies, and they are listening. And they've changed their whole understanding of waste and repairs. There's almost like these mini Patagonia-esque things that are coming through, and even the big companies. Yeah. And that was like unheard of 10 years ago.
Oh, consumers care just as much, if not more, about social impact and environmental impact from the places they buy their things.
Yeah.
You know, there's really a switch in what people care about. And yeah, the companies, it's not really, I don't know, I don't think it's really out of like this noble desire to change, but more so about satisfying our customers.
But bigger.
Yeah, individually, the people within there probably are stoked, you know, like I definitely believe that.
But if they're still believing this great eternal myth of eternal like, economic growth.
Yeah, how do we make the dollar?
Yeah,
you know?
for sure. Last question, Kate. Been blown away. I've just like saturated with so many truths. But I just want to kind of really come inside the Kate Nelson and just like, was there at any time in your journey like a certain time where there was like a breaking experience that really caused you to reflect and maybe that even became its own kind of recreational moment for you? And I've just kind of been asking everyone that I've interviewed just certain moments on the hero's journey. You're a hero of mine.
Oh.
But just on a vulnerable level, like you are a world changer, but coming personal to you and intimately into the Kate world. Was there a moment in time, like a breaking point and a breakthrough point from that?
Absolutely. My mom died when I was 19 in a car accident, and that really changed my world. Of course. She was my world. She was such an incredible woman, incredible women's rights activist. She fought to the Supreme Court and won. And incredible businesswoman, such a community leader. I was raised in the church as well, and we, volunteered so much through the church and did so much community service, which is what led to me doing environmental service work. That's when I chose my service work as an adult. I chose ocean conservation. She was such a role model, and to lose her was devastating, of course. To lose this incredible guiding light and force within my life really made me question what our purpose was here on earth, what we were even doing. And I come from immense privilege. I learn it more and more every day, how much privilege I come from. And that's part of the reason why I do what I do, is I feel like, wow, I do have resources and I do have this platform. So it's important to use that privilege for the planet and for people who don't have a voice. Mom died, and I was in college. I was 19 and I was studying business economics, and I switched my major to study philosophy. I needed answers. I just was searching for what mattered. And I studied abroad in Africa. I studied abroad in Cape Town, and I saw so much incredible joy and love and death. So many people had lost family members and people close to them, and they still could laugh and love, and they raised each other's children, and they, looked after each other, and they banded together in this community. And I learned so much from that. I learned that, I was not alone, that I was not. Hey.
You weren't alone.
Yeah, that I wasn't alone in experiencing death, and that and that our culture is just really disconnected and out of touch with rituals around ceremony. Like, in so many cultures around the world, they celebrate death, and they have dance, and they have song, and they have ceremony, and together they work together. They have cathartic release, and they hold space for each other, for people to cry and to wail. And for us, I had a week where I wore black, and we had a wake and a funeral, and I shook hands, and I was so in shock, and I was so in shock for years after she died. And being in Africa, learning that our culture we don't have these rituals to heal and to accept death, and that death is a part of nature. It's a part of life and death. It's it's the one thing that is inevitable for all of us to experience. And why don't we look at it more realistically and embrace it and see it as what it is, which is just natural? instead is this kind of like, we don't talk about it. So anyways, losing my mother really shifted my worldview. It helped me kind of, try and figure out, be more, I was searching for what is my purpose on this planet. If this person I love so much can just be taken from me like that, how can I live? What do I live for? And I found so much healing in the ocean. Yeah, just so much joy and playfulness in my water sports, and so much mystery as I became a scuba diver and then a free diver, like looking under the water and seeing octopus and like the incredible marine ecosystems that are so diverse and incredible, like magical, like just so wonderful. And we don't even know much about our oceans at all. There's so much mystery there. So feeling so much magic and mystery in this beautiful place that also healed me so much. My temple, the ocean, offering so much love and healing, and that's when I started getting into conservation of the ocean, just wanting to protect it and preserve this beautiful part of nature, part of this natural world, part of our planet. But Billy, I used to not talk about my mom dying. I used to not talk about, like, really draw that into my story. And I think it was because I hadn't, it still felt emotional. It still felt like a raw wound. And I've done so much self-reflection and so much self-healing that I feel more comfortable with that part of my life. I've really accepted and seen how her life, her death, transformed me and gave me the courage to pursue what really matters, which is and she, as a women's rights activist, she stood up for what she believed in, and so I have this legacy of hers.
Beautiful heritage.
To draw from, and draw from her courage and her strength, and to know that whatever I feel called, whatever my heart is called to, I no longer have a parent telling me what to do. I have to choose, and I have to feel into what is right for myself, and what is in alignment for my soul. And if that's protect the planet, that makes more sense than anything else. I've lost one mother. Why would I risk losing another?
Wow. Just sit in that for a moment. Yeah. So much love for you, Kate. Thank you for being part of my family.
Oh, of course,
Seriously,
Billy. It's
so
such an
much
honor.
Yeah.
Love you so much too, brother.
Yeah. And,
Thank you for all the work you do. You are such a beacon of light and wisdom and such an incredible communicator. I really want to honor and acknowledge you for that. Oh, such a beautiful voice. I love watching you perform. But also sharing what you're sharing. Thank you for using the stage and the microphone for so much good and for transforming so many hearts and minds. Thank you. Love
Big
fest.
cosmic love fest. Regenerative babes.
Regenerative babes. Hashtag regenerative babes. Yeah.
Check out iquitplastics.com online for all the special info for Kate's adventures and what she has to offer to the world. She's on Instagram as well. Don't miss her stories. She's an inspiration and a great laugh. Love her. Bless you guys.